Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the publisher, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me, Josh Mansfield. It's Thursday. Tomorrow, we begin the Idlewild Open, one of the tournaments that I look forward to the most because I think this is one of the best kind of all-around disc golf courses on tour. It's like a better version of Waco, is how I look at it. You get the like park style feel on some holes. You get the woods, obviously a lot of woods, and just in general, I feel like it's a really well built course at least for MPO. We can talk a little bit about that. Ratings update happened earlier this week, so didn't talk about that on the Tuesday show. Wanted to get to that today. No big like glamorous headline changes this week. You still have your
there's one, Charlie.
Go ahead.
I jumped 17 rating points. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's
yeah.
What are you at now?
935 now. So I'm almost out of MA2. I am on the cusp. I have to play MA1.
It's time to stop bagging.
Hit the threshold.
It's time to stop bagging. Everybody knows you're doing it, and it's a bad look. You're a bad guy, if I had to say so.
Sorry, Charlie.
I have not played any tournaments lately, so my rating remains unchanged. I think I'm 899, which is annoying. I've only played one rated tournament, so
it's not a real rating then, Charlie.
Yeah, and I've been playing a lot better in my casual rounds since then, so I need to get back out there and get over 900. Let's take a look, though, at some of the notable changes from this week in terms of ratings changes. We got a lot of people hitting all-time highs and want to take note of that. Gannon Burr. How about this? Gannon Burr, this kid, he's 15 years old, 16 years old? He's now 1027 rated, going up 5 points in this ratings update. That's amazing.
Do you think... I mean, I know that as you get higher up, it gets harder to earn those points. But you got to think that if a 15-year-old's 1027, like, he's like, oh, yeah, one day, like, 1075. Like, I mean, we know ratings inflation happens. At that age, though, I mean, he's playing great. He's playing so well.
Yeah, I mean, super exciting to see where he may end up. I mean, he's 10 years away from athletic prime. And he's already one of the top-rated players on planet Earth. So that's pretty amazing to see. The other person hitting an all-time high, and we stick in MPO, Kyle Klein. He goes from 1035 to 1038. And so he is scraping up against that 1040 spot. We'll talk more about that in 1 second. Over in FPO, Kristen Tatar goes up 9 points, 967 to 978. 976. Let's get the math right. And she's now the third highest rated player in the world. But Evelina Salonen, who was at 976, inches up to 978, despite the fact that Salonen has not been playing elite competition. And she now is the second highest rated player in the world behind, of course, Paige Pierce, who dropped 2 points from 990 to 988. So I just named a couple of folks who are in the 960 club in the FPO. There are 8 players in the 960 club, Josh. Can you name them? So I gave you Pierce, Salonen, and Tatar. Can you name the other 5?
Okay. Henna Blumroos.
Yes.
Haley King.
Yes. 3 left.
Missy Gannon?
Not there yet.
Okay. Sarah Hokum.
Yes, Sarah Hokum.
Yeah.
You're missing an obvious one.
Katrina Allen.
1 left. This is the hard one.
It's not Missy Gannon.
It's not Missy Gannon.
I don't think it's Kona.
Nope.
It's probably not. It's not Lisa, is it?
Nope.
I don't know. I've got no idea.
Heather Young is close, but not there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's Owen Scoggins, who, let's remember, shot a crazy 1040 round a couple months ago to help push her up to 960. And then just absolutely dominated the field at Pro Masters Worlds. I don't know if we mentioned that on our show.
What division did she play
on Tuesday?
She
was just in Masters 40.
Master 40,
which
okay.
is, I think, the sort of the top division at the tournament. I mean, crushed by 20 strokes or something insane.
It was wild.
So shout out to Owen Scoggins, the last member of the 960 club. Now I got one more for you.
Okay.
No changes in the 1040 club for MPO. There's a couple players in there who have one event. I mean, we talked about Marvin Tetzel last month. He's still in there. He's trying to go for the win this weekend at the European Championships, or I should really say this week. And he's in the clubhouse with 10 under. Is that what you said, Josh? Before
yep,
the show?
10 under, tied with Simon. Granted, it's only a third of the field in the clubhouse, but tied with Simon at 10 under par in the clubhouse. All right. So trying to earn that 1050 rating.
But here's the question I have for you: who's the next player to hit 1040? And let me give you some players who have yet to reach 1040 in their career, who are close, who are in the 1030s, and I want you to tell me which of them you think is going to be next to hit 1040. You got James Conrad, 1037. Amazing. Somehow he's not hit 1040, despite being a multi-time major champion. Kyle Klein, who's 1038. Just mentioned that. Kevin Jones, 1038. He's been hovering in the high 1030s, but has not clipped 1040. And Nicholas Antilla, who's 1034, also in the field, of course, the European Championships. So who you got? Who's next to hit 1040?
I have two answers to this question, and I think I'm going to take the strategy answer because we all know ratings are garbage. Anyway, I'm not getting into that debate. Nicholas Antilla has fewer rounds and is about to play a more stacked field than usual, which means that his European Championship rounds, if they go well, should be inflated from what they usually are. And what his normal kind of rounds are relative to European competition. So given that that's the case, I know he's farther away, but I think he's got more room to work. I'm going to go with Nicholas.
Okay. I like it. I think given the way that we've seen him playing lately, I'm going to take Kyle Klein.
That's who my other pick was.
Because I think, to get to 1040, right? And look, you can levy the critiques that you want at ratings. I mean, it is displaying how well you're playing compared to your peers and how consistent you are. I mean, I think that's the other big thing. If you shoot 1050 half the time, but you shoot 1,000 rated half the time, you're not getting there. So I'm going to say Kyle Klein because we've seen him really, in my mind, level up over the last few weeks. And all you have to do is sustain a hot run of play for a month to get there. So given what we've seen from him, no reason that I don't think that he can get there, and he's only 2 points away. So that's my pick.
Very feasible that it happens. I mean, if he plays well at Idlewild Maple Hill, feasible that he does it in the next ratings update, I think.
Exactly.
No, I think it's a good pick. The one thing I want to note before we move on, if you've looked at ratings in the past, Paige was in another category, right? No one even comparable in ratings. It feels like Evelina and Kristen are knocking on the door, though. Evelina's only 10 points off, which still is a lot, but it feels like that gap is closing a little bit. I think it's exciting. I think it's great for disc golf. And I'm not saying I still think Paige is the best FPO player on earth. But it's starting to feel like there's going to be competition week in and week out when those European women are back.
Right. And maybe we get to the point where if Paige is playing her best game, she still isn't a lock to win.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really been the thing. Sure, there's times when Paige doesn't play as well as she can, and she loses those times. And in the past, maybe she could not play her best and still win. And I think that's less true these days. But when she plays her best, she's been untouchable. Does that change? Maybe. Still so good when she's locked in because she can throw farther than anybody else. Simple as that. All right, let's take a look here. And I just want to give a quick plug as I was thinking about it. Paige Pierce, what the most beautiful mechanics in the sport, maybe, as a thrower. I mean, if you want to learn how to become a better thrower, watch the way Paige Pierce throws. The power she's able to generate through the lower body before she opens up the shoulders and throws the disc. There's a great article from Steve Andrews out this week, Tuesday Tips, on Ultra Disc Golf about positions, timing, and tempo, and how your swing is affected by each of those things, and how a lot of disc golfers think too much about the positions, like where is my elbow? You know, where is my plant foot? Am I rotating on my heel properly? People think a lot about like, where am I supposed to be physically? And they don't think about how the timing of the swing is probably the most important part of it. You look at some people who don't have optimized form and can still throw really far and compete at the highest levels. And, you know, James Conrad runs a full sprint into the tee pad. It's not like you'd look him up and see him in the textbook for how to throw a disc golf disc. And yet, you know, the timing of his swing is still so good that he's able to get a great result. So anyway, just a quick aside there. Paige Pierce, though, I think like maybe the best pure thrower pound for pound in disc golf. Let me ask you that. Who would you say, if I asked you that, who's the best thrower pound for pound?
Paige Pierce, without doubt.
If it's not Paige, who would you say?
Oh, if it's not
number
Paige,
two, if you agree with me.
Number two, I need to get Gavin Rathbun and Gannon Burr on a scale, because you know Gavin Rathbun. I mean, I don't know how big Gavin Rathbun is. Like, what did he say? He used to do like wrestling, I think. So he might be a big dude. I think Gannon Burr probably pound for pound. That guy looks like he's a 95 pounds soaking wet. Like, and he can throw a mile.
He's still a child, and he's 1027 rated. So yeah, that's a good answer. All right, let's move on here. I think you know, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, we get to see the European women over here competing against Paige very soon. Idlewild Open coming up this weekend, and this again, you know, it's an exciting event. Eagle McMahon winning last year in MPO over in FPO, a very emotional and awesome performance from Ellen Widboom to get the win, and we'll see what happens this year. I think the course, it's hard to tell looking at the caddy book like what kinds of changes have been instituted. You know, this is a course that's been very well established at this point. It's kind of like, I mean, maybe they made a few changes, but like it is what it is, right? It's a great course. It's very well worn in. It's got like 3,800 reviews on UDisc, 4.8 stars, widely considered the best course in the area. And again, like I said at the Open, I think this is one I always look forward to. I just think it's a super fun to watch course with lots of different lines and lots of different variety.
And I think it also is one that benefits from the very punishing rough. But, you know, the one thing I would say an exception, or I guess the difference in contrast with Idlewild to Northwoods Black, at least compared to Casey White's statement, it feels like Idlewild has a little bit more luck involved. I think it's hole 17 that has like the creek that just meanders along the fairway with trees that can drop you in at any moment. Like the holes like that, I think do bring a little bit of luck involved, but I agree with you. I think Idlewild is just great to watch. And honestly, I don't hate the luck factor, right? Like it's not like one person is going to get shafted every single time by that luck. It, like we've talked about before, it's going to distribute itself. It's going to have that normal distribution across players. And so the question is just like, how do you take those bad breaks? Because you know everyone's going to get them. Do you just get frustrated and throw your disc again into the water, or do you just take it in stride and keep playing well? So I honestly think good courses need a little bit of luck variety, just to keep the mental game challenging and poking at people. And so I appreciate it about Idlewild. I think it's an amazing course. I love watching it.
On their Idlewild website, big, bold, all caps, underlined, the hardest course on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. I think the ship has sailed. Not that that's a bad thing, you know. I don't think that every tournament should be out there trying to have the title of hardest course on tour. But I do think that given that, you know, MPO winner in 3 rounds last year was at 27 under, I just don't think you can call it the hardest course on tour.
The other thing that's noteworthy, though, is Ledgestone has Lake Eureka to kind of tone down the Northwoods Black. Idlewild is Northwoods Black and Lake Eureka in a single course.
Sure.
It combines those shots. It combines those variety of elements. And so it may not be the hardest course on tour, but I think it is a very complete course, and if not the most complete course on tour. There's a couple courses I think that can make that argument, but as a standalone single course for a tournament, I think this one is one of the best.
It's not as good as Maple Hill, though.
No, it's not.
It's not the best course on tour. It's not the hardest course on tour, but it's like really good in both of those categories. And I think it makes it pretty special. I will say the FPO layout leaves a lot to be desired. And I hope that this gets worked on, and maybe we'll see. Maybe it's been worked on somewhat heading into this year. Scores were well over par last year for the winner. There's just they play. It's only 400 feet shorter for FPO than it is for MPO, the course. So they play a lot of the same tee pads. They play a lot of the same holes, and unfortunately, that often means that, like, at best, players are getting par, and I don't think that is what we really want to see at this point. That's something that I think this course should work on in the future.
I will say, last year, Holly Finley shot a 1 under par round.
Great score.
Sarah Hokum shot 1,004 rated 2 under par. And those were the only 2 rounds under par at all last year. So,
I mean, the whole argument, par is just a number, but like, holes are designed to be set up. At least most holes should be designed to be set up to be birdieable if you make great shots. Mm-hmm. And that's just not the case on a lot of holes at Idlewild for FPO. So 3
years ago, 23 over par was good enough for a podium finish.
Wow.
Like,
come on, man. Interesting note about this tournament. As with many of the recent Disc Golf Pro Tour events, the VIP tickets have sold out. So the VIP ticket includes an event t-shirt as well as special access to about 6 holes that otherwise will not be available to general admission spectators. Friday's VIP pass was $40. Saturday's $50, and Sunday for the final round, $60. And general admission is $10 for Friday, $20 for Saturday and Sunday. So I haven't seen this too much with tournaments pricing the rounds differently depending on what day they're happening. I think it's pretty smart, though. I do think an area that disc golf tournaments can continue to improve is figuring out ways to price tickets dynamically so that you don't just really, really quickly sell out all your VIP tickets and then kind of just hope that people show up for general admission. I think pricing championship rounds more than early rounds, if you're not going to sell it as one big pass, which they had those too, makes sense because, weekday rounds are always far less attended than the weekends, and particularly the final round. A lot of people just want to come watch the final round, and I think you should charge a premium for that, and then give a big blanket discount to those who want to get a full tournament pass.
And I think, the other thing that's interesting about this is in terms of passes, it's also about, what kind of experience are you going to build for general admission? Is VIP going to be catered? And, I think, like you said, they get like a shirt with the VIP pass. Is general admission going to be the case of You come in because at Worlds, general admission was you had access to the bleachers, but that, around the 18th green. But then you also all the way up to those bleachers had tons of vendors. You had the disc store with their, marquee and all the discs that were available for sale and the World Stamp discs. But then you also had like a beer stand, and you had the Grip 6 belt stand, and you had, food stands. And I think that general admission could really profit from maybe not having the highest ticket premiums, but then creating that atmosphere around it in order to make sales. Here's an example for you. Last season, or season before COVID, Baltimore Orioles gave away tickets for free. You could get into a Baltimore Orioles game for free for I don't know how long it was. I think it was halfway through the season. They just announced they're like, whatever, all tickets are free because no one wanted to come watch the Orioles. And then they continued to make sales off things like concessions, merchandise, etc. that has a far higher markup than ticket sales ever do. Disc golf, I'm not saying is as bad as the Baltimore Orioles baseball games, but if we're working on attracting live spectators, make it something that is accessible, right? That communities can broadcast and say, hey, look, we have a disc golf tournament. It costs $3 to get in or $5 to get in. But then once they get there, have the whole red carpet set up in terms of allowing vendors, having those different establishments, call local food trucks and get them set up there and make it a big experience for people that then you get 10% of the profits of everything off that food truck. I think it's a better way and a better model of getting money from general admission.
I agree. I think right now what we're seeing happen a lot of the time is the high-end tickets are selling out really fast, and then they're never selling out. I shouldn't say never. They're not generally selling out the lower level tickets. Now, Worlds did, but they had a really, it's Worlds, number one. And number two, I think it was 1,400 person cap.
Something like that.
So, you don't really want to compare that to a regular season tournament. $20 for a ticket to watch a disc golf round isn't crazy. It's not crazy. But I think you're right. I think we should try to make that barrier of entry low for now. And what I'd like to see is more tiers. So rather than just having VIP regular, I think you should have gold ticket, silver ticket, bronze ticket, or something like that. Price discriminate more, because we're seeing that there's demand at the high end. They did that skins round at that tournament and it was $200 and they got 50 people to show up. So there's a demand at that price point where you can charge a lot and give a lot, make it so that there's a VIP area with free food and drinks, and you get a disc and you get a t-shirt and you sell 50 of those. But then you want to have the second tier that's a little bigger, right? So maybe it includes things like special viewing areas. Maybe you just get the t-shirt, but no disc. Maybe you get a discount on food and drink, but not free. You could even go to 4 tiers. But that bottom tier, $20 is maybe going to deter people from wanting to show up. It's well, I don't know if I really want to pay $20. But you're totally right. If you get them there, what's the overall take? They're going to buy a disc, they're going to buy a beer, they're going to buy a sandwich, and now they've spent $40, $50. But if you keep them out with a $20 price tag, then you don't get them in the first place. Now, the thing is, those vendors are making that money, not necessarily the tournament. But I do think that's one other area where the Disc Golf Pro Tour can make steps in the future, is to say, we're going to do our own catering or a beer, or, wrap some of that stuff into their own event. That's for down the road, for sure. That's not a next year kind of a thing. But as you're looking at ways to sort of maximize revenue streams, obviously either selling, making it expensive for vendors to show up because that they're going to get a lot of sales and they'll be willing to pay a fee, or even handling it yourself can mean that you make a lot of extra, sort of revenue per person.
Well, and with those vendors, I think you take a percentage off the top, because the fee is determined. Maybe they don't know how much they're going to make. You're right.
Point.
It's hard to hit exactly where it needs to be. Sure. Let as many vendors as they want show up, and then just take 10% off the top of each of those vendors. And, if not a bunch of them show up, then there's that scarcity. That vendor gets a ton of business and you get a decent amount of money from that one vendor. If 50 vendors are like, yeah, we'll be there, then you take 10% off of perhaps a little bit lower sales from each of them. So,
but then you have an incentive to get people in the door.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of low hanging fruit, group sales, just straight up ticket giveaways, right? Give a bunch of tickets away to local radio stations to give out. I mean, there's so many marketing opportunities for disc golf that are just sitting there. And, it's obviously encouraging how many people are already showing up just right now, very much organically in most cases. And, I think, again, price the high-end tickets to really take advantage of that high-end demand from the incredibly committed, dedicated disc golf fans, and give them an experience that they want to have. I mean, I think we've seen that people are willing to pay for that good experience where they get to, have the fancy, the discs and the wine and dine and the player meet and greet, right? You could include that kind of stuff in a ticket, give a cut to the players. There's a lot of opportunities to continue to do more than just say, we have VIP tickets, there's 50 of them, they sell out like this, and then everything else is just general admission. Onwards. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little inside the circle. We've got some good stuff for today, and then we're going to make our picks, and that's going to be the show. So stick around. You're listening to The Upshot. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Pound is a product-driven company committed to evolving with and elevating the sport of disc golf. As disc technology and emerging talent continue to redefine the boundaries of the sport, equipment and course design struggle to keep up. In order to develop products that will not only keep up with, but also help redefine the sport, Pound utilizes the latest in backpack design technology. From 3D modeling to technical materials, Pound uses current technology to push product development beyond the current boundaries. Learn more at pounddiscgolf.com. Welcome back to The Upshot. It's time to go inside the circle. Josh, take it away.
We got two big pieces of news here, and they're really exciting. I mean, this is exciting news. Charlie hinted at it, gave you a little teaser about coverage for European disc golf. Well, it has now been announced the European Pro Tour is going to be a cohesive tour that runs throughout Europe for 2022 and has live coverage of these events. They're going to have live coverage of a couple events at the end of this year, and the coverage is going to be in Finnish. But moving forward, beginning next year, all coverage in English available. I don't know about anything in terms of like price, subscriber. They haven't released those details yet. But it's exciting to know that, they're planning to put together a tour that starts with 7 events, but they expect to go very rapidly. Charlie, I think the biggest thing that's noteworthy to me, if you go down the list and look at the countries where these tournaments are being held, Finland, Estonia, Sweden, Norway, Denmark. I'm like, okay, yeah. Like these Northern European countries, that's where we hold disc golf tournaments, right? It's huge there.
Sure.
European Pro Tour All-Stars, Spain.
Oh, that's fun. We were just talking about how Europe is not like widely represented. Mm-hmm. And there's some courses in Spain, but it's not huge there. But that's cool. Maybe that's going to jumpstart things in the Iberian Peninsula.
I think it has a real capacity to increase growth in Europe. And just the way that, Finland has just taken off with this sport, I can't imagine why other places wouldn't get into it as well. Like it feels like it would be a natural spread across Europe, especially as this pro scene continues to develop as well, and you begin having those tournaments there.
This is very interesting. As far as we can tell, there's no affiliation with the Disc Golf Pro Tour happening over in the United States, or for the DGPT event that we expect to happen in Europe in the future. It was supposed to happen this year, but canceled for COVID. I think, this seems like an obvious next step for European disc golf is live coverage of some kind. And, we'll see. I don't think people should expect it to look as good as, DGN has become over the last 2 years. there's just, DGN they're doing 6 cameras now. It's quite an operation. But even if they just have 2 cameras, to be able to watch lead cards, it's going to be exciting. I think that, European disc golf kind of needs a little shot in the arm. We were talking on Tuesday about how the payouts are, pretty low for some of these A tiers. And, it just hasn't reached that same level of kind of commercialization that we've seen in the United States. But that's not for lack of interest. I mean, some of these countries are sort of per capita more obsessed with disc golf than the US. Now, populations are a lot smaller, of course. But, if you can get your tournaments shown on broadcast television, which has happened in Finland, like there's nothing stopping you from being able to monetize like a live stream type situation. So, a lot of details yet to be worked out. How is this going to interface, if at all, with the PDGA Euro Tour, which was supposed to kind of roll out this year and has really been just very hampered by COVID and ongoing restrictions, especially cross-border travel in Europe. But I'm fascinated to see what happens next for European disc golf, because it does feel like it's on the precipice of kind of its next big step.
And it's noteworthy that the European Open is not a part of this tour. It is
right.
Distinct from the Disc Golf Pro Tour's event, and that is not listed. So that that may change, but at least right now, it does feel...
It seems like there's some politics behind the scenes here. There's some reporting to be done, and it's on my plate to kind of figure out like what all is going on, and who's backing this, who's upset about this, like. I think that this is an interesting thing, but like competition is really good. I think we've seen it, some of the, if you want to call it competition between the Pro Tour and the PDGA has kind of pushed things forward over the last few years. And I think it's going to continue to help things move along. And, Europe feels like it needs somebody to step in and be like, all right, we're going to really get things organized and start to make a cohesive tour happen. And I think we're starting to get the pieces of that put together at this point.
Exciting news to be seen what happens and the development of it.
TBD.
That's TBD. Second piece of news. The Disc Golf Network will be featuring USDGC this year, but there's a catch. It is still $25 paywall in order to get access to the USDGC rounds.
Paywall behind the paywall, folks. To be clear, I don't exactly know. I think you'll probably be able to go on, if you're not a DGN subscriber, I think you'll be able to go in and buy just the USDGC package. I would assume that that's how this is going to work.
That seems, based on the press release,
yeah,
what is the case.
So, but if you're a DGN subscriber, you just get 20% off. You don't get it as a part of your subscription. You have to go in and pay. It's like when you're watching ESPN Plus, and then the UFC main event comes on, and you got to pay the pay-per-view behind the ESPN Plus paywall. So that's how this is going to work. And the price is going up $25 this year. It was $20, if I recall correctly, a year ago. And so the big question is, like, will people pay? Will people pay? Last year, I mean, some people paid for sure. They made a bunch of money. I think they made almost $200,000 in ticket sales for the live stream. That's that's a meaningful amount of money. So I can understand why they're going to this model. But I have to also say, last year, USDGC felt very, there was no buzz because there was nothing on YouTube. The only way to watch was to pay. And so the few thousand people that paid got access, right? But the vast rest of the population who's not ready to pay $20 to watch a disc golf tournament didn't watch. So there was like no conversation about the tournament going on online. And, it was during COVID, so maybe that had something to do with it. But I have to say, I do worry that, obviously we're going to pay. I mean, we're going to watch. We got to watch. But I think that, more casual fans probably aren't. And is that a problem for the USDGC? Maybe it's worth the money that you make.
I think USDGC needs to call James Conrad and offer some royalties of this sales, because I think I might have agreed with you before Worlds. I still agree with you to an extent, but for those who didn't watch Worlds live, like, they know they missed out. They
made
know
a big mistake.
They made a huge mistake. And I recognize some people can't watch it because of, different time restrictions or work restrictions. And I get that. But those who chose not to, who were like, I'll catch the Jomez, they messed up. Like, and they know it.
They took an L.
Those who watched Worlds are absolutely going to pay for this, I think, because they know and they recognize how like exciting that was, and we're a part of that, and they want to be a part of it again. Those who missed Worlds, I think a good population of them are also going to pay for it now.
What if there had been a paywall in the final round of Worlds, though? That was free on YouTube. 40,000 people tuned in. And you're not going to get those numbers behind a $25 paywall. You're just not.
I think so. You had 40,000 people tune in live to World's Final. I bet you get at least 30,000, 25 to 30,000
to pay,
even with the paywall. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Let's make an over under that we wait and see later. So write it down. Over under 25,000.
Yeah.
Well, what do you want to make the number? You get to make the number.
It's hard because, like, when there's a paywall, like at Worlds, for example, like my brother-in-law and I can be in different rooms of the same house and both have the stream up so we can be watching it. When there's a paywall, like how many viewers is hard to tell. It's hard to judge. But
okay, look, make all your excuses that you want to make.
Here's what I'm going to say.
Let's do it.
20,000. I think you're
20,000. You just told me it was going to be 30,000. I want 27.5, and I want you to take the over. That's what I want.
All right,
20,000. I don't want the under on 20,000. I won't take.
All right, I'll take 27. I want 27 as the line, and I'll take the over.
27,000. All right.
Yeah.
You want the over or the under?
I'll take the over. Give it to me.
I'll give it to you.
I'm being bold. I'm probably wrong.
Bold take. It's not crazy. So, I mean, again, it's obviously subscriptions, not people watching. There's no way to know how many people are crowded around a screen. I mean, you could say the same thing about YouTube.
That's true.
So 27,000 on USDGC. This is a future over-under. We put it in the bank for today, and that will be our, over-under in the second week of October. So fun. Yeah, we'll see. I think this is very interesting. The last couple of years, USDGC has been streamed by Fulcrum Media, which it's a long story. The Ultimate Frisbee streaming company that's since been acquired by the kind of the Disc Golf Pro Tour equivalent in Ultimate. Some of those folks are still going to be involved in the production, but it's going to be on DGN now. And I mean, that to me makes very logical, obvious sense, given that, DGN has really established itself as the place to go if you want to watch live disc golf. So, go where the people are. That's good marketing. So we'll see. I think they're selling like a gold pass too. It's kind of the same as last year. There's like multiple tiers. One includes, extra goodies and a disc and stuff like that. And we'll see what happens. USDGC continuing to push the bar. I'm going to be curious to see what kind of media it looks like. Do they go big? Because they've really tried to push in the past. The DGN folks have 6 cameras. Do they add another 4 cameras? Do we see how many bells and whistles are we going to get in this coverage? I do think, if you're DGN, you have to be thinking about how do we make our subscribers feel good about paying this extra cost. And if you're the USDGC, obviously, if you're going to keep raising the price, you got to keep delivering a higher and higher level of product in order to kind of meet those expectations. So
last year, Jomez did not cover USDGC.
Yeah, that's right.
I remember correctly.
Yeah, because Central Coast did it 2 weeks later.
Yep. Yeah, they released. And this time you get exclusive access for 30 days following the event. I don't know if that means there's going to be post-produced coverage until 30 days
Literally,
after.
as we're talking about this, the news has basically just dropped, or it has yet to actually get released. We're recording this Wednesday morning. So some of these questions don't have answers yet, and we'll have an article out with more information soon. By the time you hear this, you probably have an article out with more information.
So it'll be interesting. I'm excited to watch USDGC, though. You can be certain, even if I wasn't doing the podcast, I would be paying to watch it. So,
all right, time to get to our picks for this weekend's Idlewild Open. Quick recap of last week. Josh and I both scored 9 points. We correctly had, each of us, only Ricky Wysocki in our top 5 in MPO. The other 4 picks that each of us had were wrong. Man, we are just stinking it up in MPO. I just shows you how crazy and competitive it is week to week in the swings back and forth. We each got 3 correct in FPO. I correctly picked Ricky Wysocki to win the tournament, although I didn't get the co-winner, Calvin Heimberg, up there. And Josh properly selected Paige Pierce. So it was 4 points for the top 5s, and we each get a 5-point bonus for the winners. That means that Josh has a 24-19 lead heading into Idlewild. By the way, I almost forgot to mention this. Idlewild is the final tournament before the cutoff for the match play tournament that's coming up in a few weeks in Pittsburgh. So people are jockeying for those top 16 spots in order to be able to compete in the match play tournament. A lot of players have already locked up a spot, but it's not over. There are still players in the mix. A great weekend from somebody who's on the bubble could get in. Again, it will be based on Pro Tour point standings after this tournament. So, a lot of the big names are already pretty much in. I believe Paul Macbeth is not going to be playing because he has his own tournament happening in Virginia that weekend, if I recall correctly. So that opens up a spot for somebody else. And, there's a good mix of people who have a chance.
I'm just going to read down real fast the 12 through 18 spot. And then so you just have an idea of who's, really pushing this weekend. In number 12, Garrett Gurthie, 13, Drew Gibson, 14, Emerson Keith, 15, Chris Clemens, 16, Chris Dickerson. Chris Dickerson needs to play. I mean, it's just because he doesn't play as many events, but, he's on that threshold. He's got to play well this weekend. 17, Joel Freeman, 18, Paul Ulibarri. So those are the guys really trying to get in. And remember, Pro Tour
give us
points,
FPO as well. Let's hear that.
Oh, yeah. How deep do they go FPO? Is it 16 as well, or just 8?
It's 16, yeah.
Okay. So 16, I think there's a lot of fluctuation in FPO sometimes. So I'm going to give you 10 down. In 10th, you've got Juliana Korver. 11th, Valerie Mondahanu. 12th, Rebecca Cox. 13, Madison Walker. 14, Kristen Tatar, who will not be playing in this event.
I doubt she'll be
back. That's an extra spot. 15, Lisa Fakis. 16, Holly Finley. 17, Owen Scoggins. 18, Heather Young. 19, Alexis Mondahanu. And 20, Cynthia Ricciardi. So those are some names all vying. And it's noteworthy. The Pro Tour rewards wins and podium finishes so highly, especially wins, that a win from, and some of the names we listed were like, I don't know if I have any of those people in any of my top 5s. So, I think a win might be a pretty miraculous event, but a top 5, top 3 can really push the scales in more so than just, beating out some of that competition.
Right. Yeah, is Owen Scoggins playing this weekend? She sure is. So I bet Owen is going to make her way in. Again, part of that 960 club. And so that'll be fun, Looking forward to seeing if Owen... I think I might have to consider putting Owen in my picks this week. All right, well, let's get to those picks and keep an eye, of course, this weekend on Pro Tour points. Sometimes it's a little hard to track what's actually going to happen because scores drop. You only take your top scores. So if you lose a score here, then, because you played well this weekend, like that can end up boosting you even more than getting just a good score this weekend. So, trying to actually do all the math is kind of tricky. But that's something to keep in mind. A lot those bubble players have a big incentive to play well this weekend to get into that match play tournament, which I'm looking forward to. All right, picks. I'm going to take it away. I think we did an over-under this week too, Josh.
I've got one.
Okay, great. Let me give you my picks first, and then we'll do over-under, and we'll close the show. I'm going Paige Pierce, Sarah Hokum, Missy Gannon, Katrina Allen, and Owen Scoggins in my top 5 in FPO. Taking some people who've been playing really well lately. Hokum, Gannon, and I just, Paige Pierce, like the way she was playing last weekend, I got to stick with her. I made a mistake not to pick her last week.
Leaving Haley King off?
She was last out for me. I took her out and put in Owen Scoggins.
Okay. You're gonna be real upset when she wins this weekend.
Well, I am, because I keep picking people a week before they win. It's brutal.
That's right.
Pick Drew Gibson, and then okay, now you're gonna play well. All right.
I also have Pierce to win it, and then I have Haley King, not leaving her off the list. Owen Scoggins 3rd, Katrina Allen 4th, Sarah Hokum 5th. So I am choosing to leave Missy Gannon off though, so that might come back to bite me.
It's gonna. You're gonna be bitten. MPO for me. Starting at the top, I'm calling a back-to-back. I'm calling the repeat. Eagle McMahon, then Ricky Wysocki, Chris Dickerson, Paul Macbeth, and Andrew Marweed. Andrew Marweed playing really well last weekend. He played great here last year. He had a top 5 finish here at Idlewild last year. A little combination of inform and horses for courses gets him a top 5 spot for me.
I like it. I've got Kevin Jones to win it.
Wow.
He's won it 2 years ago.
Yep.
Kevin Jones won. So he's won here before, plays well here. I've got Kevin Jones to win it. Ricky in 2nd, Kyle Klein in 3rd, Eagle McMahon in 4th, and Adam Hammis in 5th. Noteworthy, we both leave Calvin Heimberg off of our top 5.
We're probably making a mistake. I mean, I don't know. It's impossible to find spots for everybody lately. Like, look how different our picks are. I don't even have Kevin Jones in my top 5, or Kyle Klein, or Adam Hammis. You don't have Dickerson. You don't have Macbeth. And you don't have Marweed.
Yeah.
I mean, leaving out Marweed, I get it. But, Dickerson and Macbeth?
I picked Macbeth to win it last week, and how'd that work out for me?
Well, yeah.
12th?
We need to have some name for what happens when Northwood gets you, I don't know. I'll think on that. Someone will send us a good email. Upshot@ultiworld.com if you ever have thoughts to share. Our subscriber bonus this week, we're going to be talking about some reactions to kind of like commentary style and naming discs during rounds. We got a bunch of feedback on that. Josh has some thoughts he wants to share. We're going to talk a little bit more about how do we make the commentary in disc golf accessible, fun, professional, and open to new people. So more to come on that in our subscriber bonus segment. Become a subscriber for less than $4 a month at discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. Josh, go ahead.
Yep, I've got our over under for the week.
Oh yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, last year Holly Finley and Sarah Hokum both shot a 1 under and then a 2 under round. That was a 997 and 1006 rated round. This year, they were the only two to shoot over
Those
what
are the
will
only
be
2 rounds shot under par.
Yep. And so this is also going to be dependent on weather, dependent on how well people play as a field. Hot round, 995 rated, better or worse. Last year, those 2 rounds, only 2 that would have made that mark.
So you want to make it rating? You don't want to do under par rounds?
I'm doing rating because I don't know what changes have been made. I don't know if any. I don't know what the weather's looking like. I haven't checked the weather. So if it's like, I think there was a year that Idlewild just like
all right. I take
rain.
the over.
So you're taking the over.
Let's call it 995 and a half.
Just 995 and a half.
Ties.
Yep. No ties.
I'll take the over.
And you take the over. Okay.
I'll take the over.
All right. I mean, if it plays similar to last year, you're saying you think you'll see at least.
Let's have a second over under this week.
Okay.
Over under 4.5 under par rounds. FPO.
4.5 under par.
Yeah.
I'll take the under, the worse. Like I don't think anyone's going to get 4.5.
It'll be fewer than 4 or fewer under par rounds.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you meant 4.5 strokes under par.
I'm talking about total rounds played.
Total rounds played under par.
Over under 4.5.
If I take the over, then that way we both win one. Like,
Maybe.
I don't think both things can be true. So
are you going to double down, or
double down, or hedge my bets? We're tied at 4 right now, right? For our over under.
I think so.
Oh, that would suck to go to 6 and 4. Whatever. I'm doing it. There will not be 4 rounds under par.
All right. There it is. Good stuff. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back with you Tuesday as we keep it rolling. I think we finally get a breather after this crazy stretch of disc golf. I'm ready for it. I think it's going to be nice to catch our breath before we head out to the East Coast. And we've got this match play tournament coming up. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood. Say it so long. We'll talk to you next week right here on The Upshot.